This is WPSL Port Saint Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
It's 10:09 at WPSL 1590, the talk of the Treasure Coast. Time to ask a professor, doctor.
And this is Rabbi Shafir Lobb of Congregation Eitz Chayim, your Jewish home on the Treasure Coast on this beautiful Friday. And so I've got something I'm kind of excited about.
Whoa!
I've got
a business card.
I do have a business
I
card.
love it. Yeah.
So that's about the counseling that you can have with me, or one of the other therapists at Change of Mind, and that's on Bethany in Port Saint Lucie. You can just give a call, and the phone number is, go ahead and read it.
It is 772-284-6030. 284-6030.
And if you give that a call and tell Mary Ellen that you wish to have some counseling with me, then she will schedule it. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited about that.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, and I'm actually excited about something else that we're going to be doing at Change of Mind. We are going to be rolling out before too long. You'll hear more from me about it. But we're going to be rolling out something called PDD testing, which is to do a mental health evaluation, but that would be for any neurodivergence, to be able to see what the impacts of that are. And we're also going to be bringing on board some testing for dyslexia, so that we can detect dyslexia from children on through adults, because dyslexia is a major cause for difficulty reading and reading comprehension and things like that. And sometimes it's verbal dyslexia. So it has to do with understanding the words.
Well, let me tell you, if you want to do some mental testing, this is a perfect radio station for it.
I got you. Very cute. Yeah.
Oh, my.
Yeah,
well, a week off for the young lady.
It sort of.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Another circle around the sun. I try to do as many of those as I can.
Yes, don't we all?
Yeah, it's one of those things that what can I say? The one who gets the most wins, right?
Yeah. Well, I hope so.
Hopefully we're all winners in some ways.
You know, hats off to a couple schools that I'm very familiar with. One's my alma mater. The other is the University of Santa Clara up in the San Francisco area. They ran full-page ads. Welcome Jewish students.
Thank you. Yeah.
And, I with all this garbage that's going on.
It is garbage. The reality is that if you ask those folks that are encamped what river and what sea they're talking about, they don't even know.
No, and
which is really the scary part, right? So they've imbibed this excitement of being part of some movement, or they're being paid for it, which, as a number of universities have figured out, it's not their students that are doing this.
Professional agitators.
There are people that just make a living doing this, which is scary.
They had some interviews with folks that had been arrested. I think it was at Fordham. And the three of the arrestees are from Oakland.
Yeah.
Not exactly a neighborhood of Fordham.
Yeah.
3,000 miles they flew to agitate.
So people, clearly are making significant money in this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's sad, but it's absolutely crazy. And
it's, we've seen it before. This is let's get in on something for the sake of being in on it, plus getting paid. Clearly there's a ton of money. When you look at the encampment and it's not just the lowest priced tent
Oh, no.
at Walmart.
Thank you,
These are
REI.
serious tents that are being supplied, and yeah, this is big business.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no doubt
This
about
is
it.
big business trying to manipulate public opinion, and I'm hoping that it backfires on them because it has that chance. I'm not saying so let me best back up. What Hamas did is unforgivable, was true terror, there is no justification for that, for what they did. And there's no justification for the way they've treated the hostages. There just isn't. So that's one thing. On the other hand, yes, I do believe that there's more happening than should in the way of a response, because that's just the way I'm built.
Yeah, and Netanyahu overreacted.
Well, you've got so many players in this game. It's if ever there was a thing of moving objects, it's that war. But we're not hearing much about what's going on in Ukraine anymore. And folks, that's just as horrific.
Well, if not more. I mean,
Well, I don't know about more, but
yeah.
you get to a scale of horror that's
right.
just
It's both war situations
Yeah.
now. But yeah, they were talking on Fox Business, was it yesterday or the day before? It's going to take 40 years
at least.
to rebuild both. Yeah, at least to rebuild Ukraine, and at least 40 years for Gaza.
Well, okay, I'm going to take a look at U.S. Have we really even finished rebuilding since Katrina?
Oh, we haven't even started in some
In
neighborhoods.
some neighborhoods, we've just let blight take over. So, and that's the same problem with the Gazans. They're beyond dirt poor.
Well, just look at us. I mean, yeah, we've got Mexico Beach and not just up the road, but in the
Yeah.
Panhandle, that is virtually untouched from
Yeah.
what, 3 years ago?
Yeah. On a state that clearly has enough funds.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Clearly has enough funds to divert it if they wanted to.
But it was a poor neighborhood.
It's a poor neighborhood. They don't have they just don't have enough votes. They don't have a powerful enough representation. And yeah, we never take care of the poor. And so I'm going to go to a place that people might not have expected, but when we get to Amalek, when we get to Purim, which was the festival back in March, because Passover was in April and Purim's always a month before it. So Purim happened right around the time that Christians were celebrating Easter, which is always an unfortunate calendar event when those two holidays get close, but that's life. And but the morning of Purim is to blot out the memory. Remember to blot out the memory, which I love. Only Scripture can come up with an instruction like that. Remember to blot out the memory of Amalek. And Amalek, we are told in Scripture, are the ones who preyed on the poor, on the stragglers, when Israel was in the desert.
Oh no.
And that's the crime of which they're guilty. And that plays into the Purim story because Haman is a descendant from Amalek. Right. So there's a song that I penned to the tune of Popeye. It's a satire song, which is I'm Haman the
What?
Amalekite.
Wait a minute. What?
Yeah, I'm Haman the Amalekite. And it's kind of fun to sing, but that's the point of the contention between Mordecai, the hero of the story, the uncle of Esther, and her foster father, or her adoptive father, and Haman, the bad guy in the story. He's an Amalekite, and so there's this ongoing friction between the two families. It's the Hatfields and McCoys in biblical times.
Yeah.
And then we come out of Purim and go into Passover, where we're invited to take the puffiness out of ourselves. That's the whole point of the unleavened bread is get rid of the leaviness, get rid of the puffiness, easy for me to say, in our own beings.
Huh. Okay.
Right, that's the idea.
Now I've never
it
known
makes
that.
a whole
Okay.
different, it's a different view of it.
Oh, sure
Because
it is.
Because when you come into freedom, freedom is not doing anything you want to do regardless of who you hurt. Freedom has responsibility. There's a freedom of responsibility and a responsibility of freedom. And when you become a nation, which Israel does with the coming out of Egypt, you take on the responsibility of being a nation, of not just being a bunch of hooligans and mobs and gangs. If you want to be a country and a state, then there is a responsibility associated with it. If you want to become a member of the world community, there's a responsibility that comes with it of not willfully harming your neighbor. You don't get to beat up your brother or sister and say it's okay.
Iran does.
Yeah, well, I said if you really want to be part of the world of nations.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and
You're right.
that's part of the challenge. One could argue that Russia's not doing a good job of it either. Right. And there are certainly squabbles in that. I'm not naive enough to think that the world is anywhere close to what it should be or what it could be. Can you imagine how fantastic the world could be if we got rid of discrimination and neighbor picking on neighbor?
Oh, yeah.
We could probably cure cancer. I know we could cure diabetes. We could do so much. We could make major inroads on things like dementia if we could harness the intelligence of the species instead of putting it to how to beat up each other more effectively and faster and more horrifically. If we could put that to bettering the world. And I know that sounds, well, let's talk about a Hawaiian goddess, Pollyanna, right? That's the goddess who cares about the poor and bringing rain to farmers. So there is a chance, folks. We as a species are incredibly brilliant and can harness the good in the world, but we're not, because we allow bickering and infighting and horror between neighbors. That's just not acceptable. And until we as a species come to that conclusion, till we come to the idea that it's not okay to discriminate against each other just based on who your parents were or where you live or the color of your skin or the dress or pants you wear. It's just not okay. That we're all human beings. And yes, I operate from a very basic premise, which is that God doesn't make junk. And last I checked, we were all human beings with 23 sets of chromosomes. That's not different.
And you look at what we're going through now, and the totally forgotten continent is Africa.
Yeah,
It's a mess.
it's a huge mess. It needs a ton of help.
It has for decades.
Yeah. Well, again, we're dealing with poverty.
Yeah.
And it's not that Africa doesn't have natural resources. They do. But those natural resources are being ripped out and stolen, candidly.
Diamond mines.
The blood diamonds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And other forms of slavery and extortion. It wasn't just limited to Columbus. So
Well, the scary thing is that it's been going on since Columbus.
it's been going on since before Columbus.
God.
We just haven't owned up to it as a species. We've not answered that question in Genesis 2, am I my brother's keeper? We've not figured out that we are. Right. We really are here to take care of each other and make the world a better place. That to me is the essence of being Jewish, is tikkun olam. It's repairing the world. It's making the world a better place. It's one of the policies that I actually try to live in, and that is to leave a place better than I find it.
I think that should be all of our goals.
would that we could.
We want it better for our kids and certainly want it better for our grandkids as well.
Well, and even just for ourselves and our neighbors. Leave a place cleaner than you find it when you rent it or borrow it. Return the dishes clean. It's simple things. But it goes, when it moves to a national level, then we can do some really profound things. And we need to do that. We absolutely need to do that.
You know, I think Fox had some funny stuff from Columbia. And so it was these three girls, and they're joining the protest.
Okay.
And so the Fox reporter says, well, you know, you've got to be here for a reason. And they said, well, yeah, we're just out here. What are we supposed to say? I mean, it's like, wait a minute. You've got three people there that don't even know why they're out there protesting and have no idea what Hamas is.
No.
I mean, it's like,
They have no idea what part of the world they're talking about. What's going, yeah. And I'll be among the first ones to say that it is going to take forever to rebuild. And the average Gazan is not any more able to influence what's going on than the average Israeli is. There have been so many protests on the Israel side.
yeah,
Right? People are not happy with how it's being done and what's being done and the priorities. But
yeah, that war cabinet is really starting to take heat now.
yeah, and rightfully they should. Rightfully they should. It's just not going to happen instantly. We overestimate what power the individual. It takes the individual to make a change, and you should never think that you can't do something, because all movements start with 2 or 3 people. Somebody who's a visionary and the first follower, who's the most important person, actually is the first follower, doesn't get enough credit. And then the next one to come up, the first 2 followers change it from a lone nut to something significant. But it takes a while for that to create its wave and do something. We've seen revolutions in the world. We've seen different groups taking power in different cultures and civilizations, and it all starts with a small group with an idea and getting the people in general behind it. One of the things that I invite people all the time, I invite my students to go and visit Colonial Williamsburg. If you really want to understand a little bit about revolution, go to Colonial Williamsburg. They make a bloody fortune because they charge like Disney does. But you also learn a lot about American history. It's set in 1774, not 1776, but 1774. The era of rebellion is starting.
Okay.
And you see how they react to the idea of the original Tea Party, which was overthrowing tea into the harbor in Boston. How they do, what the movers and shakers in Williamsburg did to get the people behind the revolution. Because the American Revolution, folks, was started by the wealthy, which is not unusual. Like many such things.
What got me was apparently one of the organizations outside of Soros was the Roosevelt organization.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, why would they want to foment trouble on campuses? I don't know. I just
there are agendas much deeper than what we can imagine. The whole
oh yeah.
school system is, America's been slowly going down the river without realizing it.
Mhm.
And this is a long-term project for some very invested people, and the question becomes why. We've raised a generation that are not entrepreneurial at all. very few entrepreneurs. And it's one of the things that I challenge as a professor. It's not just about getting a job with the man, it's about helping the economy and you and your family and friends to thrive.
That's our future small business person.
Yeah, but we're not training them. We're not teaching them how to be entrepreneurs, how to do small scale business. We're not teaching that.
AI will do it. Don't worry about it.
Uh-huh. And whoever controls the AI will give you all the answers they want you to have.
Yeah, isn't that scary? Yeah.
And I get a big kick out of the students who think that professors don't know what they're doing.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Yeah, there was some paper that I was grading, and the vocabulary was beyond graduate level. And there were errors in the paper. It's not like there weren't errors in the paper, because the people who cut and paste them don't do a perfect job. And so so you've got this incredibly high level of language. And I actually came back and I said, these are interesting vocabulary choices that you've picked. I highly recommend that you tone this down and speak in a normal level so that you engage your reader.
And then you promptly gave him a D. Oh.
Tell me what this word means.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and we'll talk.
Well, I hate to say it, but back in broadcasting school, which is when the dinosaurs were roaming, they said, when you're reading a newscast, talk to a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
That's your target market. I'm thinking, what?
They're not wrong. Well,
I sort of get it, though.
So when you do research, one of the things that you have to do, you have to meet the Institutional Review Board, which is the ethics oversight on research from any institution.
Okay.
They all have them. Kaiser has them, IRSC has them, Liberty has it, NCU has it, or National, they've changed their name, has it. All of these places have this board, and one of the things that I had to do for my dissertation, and that I've helped others do as well, is you have to submit your materials, when you're recruiting and when you're looking for people to participate in your research, the material you give them has to be written at an 8th or 9th grade level. And so you submit it.
That wasn't crazy then.
No, you submit it to these analysis. There's like 7 or 8 different methods of analyzing your writing. And if it comes out higher than 9th grade, go back and rework it. Shorten the sentences, use more common language. You can discuss very, very profound ideas in very basic language. You do not need to use sesquipedalian terminology.
Gesundheit.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. I can use the fancy words too, and I know what they mean, but I don't use them in everyday speech, except to make a point. And that's a hats off to Ursinus College, where I had my original bachelor's. There was somebody on the campus had taken to writing down all over sesquipedalian terminology obfuscates the rumination.
Oh, God.
And I've not seen that phrase anywhere else, but it was definitely there. And what that means, sesquipedalian means using the dollar word when a 10-cent word will work. Terminology is, of course, words. Obfuscates means to hide, and rumination is thought. And it's true, when you use fancy words, you're showing off. You're not demonstrating skill or knowledge. You're showing off. And you're right, I did mark that one down.
Yeah. Congratulations.
God. And of course, the challenge there becomes prove it, and that's more difficult when it's not that we don't know, it's the proving it that's the challenge. And what's happening, we're seeing that professors are getting clever. They're doing things like, okay, bring your resources in and handwrite a paper in class.
Nice, nice. Sure.
Bring your sources in and handwrite it. And show your sources to the prof so that we see that you're not just cutting and pasting something. And so there are a couple of things that I've noticed. One of my students just published his book on his research on the barriers for Latino students in college.
Oh,
The title of the book is Latinos, Why Do They Struggle in College? So if you look for that on Amazon, it's now up on
Wow.
Amazon. And yeah,
is it good?
it is good. There's language and there's several points that he talked to a whole lot of students. Now the research was done in Pennsylvania.
Makes no difference. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and he just published his book. But the thing that was interesting about that is that when you do that, Amazon now says what percentage of this book was generated by AI.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they want to know. You have to make a statement as to whether or not AI was used in the generation of the book.
How much is Amazon running on AI? Come on.
Well, that's a good point because the bots certainly use AI, and we all know how well the bots answer our questions. If you've ever wanted to talk to a human because the machine just isn't getting it.
Your call is very important to us.
Yeah, please stand by. Yeah, please stand by. The bottom line is that AI is only as good as the programmers can make it. And the programmers don't know everything. They can't. I can't tell you how many times I have searched on a website for the answer, a simple answer to a simple question, but it's not programmed into the bot. And I can sit there and turn blue. I'll look like that the old joke from when you used to do programming on the card stacks, and they used to have that the skeleton saying waiting on my
sure.
output. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I know those feelings. And I feel that way sometimes when I go on the websites and look for the bots because they don't always have the choice of I've got a question because it doesn't fit all the standard stuff on the website. I know how to look on a website to find an answer. And when I can't find it, I do get frustrated. And I want to talk to a human being who might know the answer. But it really is scary when that person doesn't speak English and simply has a script to follow. And yeah, thank you, Al. Funny you don't look bluish. Shades of Yellow Submarine, right? And
So you were talking to Comcast recently.
well, and I learned some of this talking with AT&T, who's been my cell carrier since the bag phone, since the brick.
Poor Carol is going to wind up becoming a saint after these staying on the phone holding for 3 hours for AT&T.
So I want to do something funny with that piece about you don't look bluish, because that reminds me, that came out when I was in Israel. And I went and saw the movie. And of course, what Israel does with American movies is they subtitle it in Hebrew, which is not surprising. And as anybody who's Jewish in America knows, the line, funny you don't look bluish, it's the blue meanies, right? He takes a pill and he's not blue, so he doesn't look bluish. And of course, that's a hysterically funny line in that movie. But it's not when the Hebrew translates, funny you don't look blue-like.
Oh, no.
Because there's not, puns
the
don't
same.
translate.
Yeah.
Puns just don't translate, usually. I'll give you the one that I love because it does translate, but it's very rare that one does. And it was funny in the theater because all of the native English speakers in the audience were rolling in the aisles when that line was said in the movie. If you hadn't cracked a smile in the movie before that, you certainly lost it when the guy says that to the blue meanie who's taken the pill and doesn't look bluish. And the Israelis are like, huh? What's so funny? They don't get it. And Al says, Chinese puns don't. No two languages really do. The only one that I know of that I can do is the story of the birth of Jacob and Esau in the Bible. And the name Esau means a hairy guy. Okay, you have to know that. And the text says when they were born that one of them was fuzzy and furry, and so we named him Harry. And the same way that you chuckle now when I say it in English is how Israelis chuckle when they hear that story read to them out of the book of Genesis. And to me, and I know that there are many other puns that I get, and I have to wonder how many puns I don't get, simply because of the kind of Hebrew that I speak, that I don't know all of the ins and outs of puns in the day when it was written.
Oh, I'm sure.
And my question always is to students and to biblical scholars is, what does it tell you about the book when it has that kind of pun in it? Because surely they knew it.
Mm-hmm.
And the same is true in the book of Esther is loaded with satire and puns, and it's hysterically funny. It's a very serious book. It's about the annihilation of the Jewish people, but it's hysterically funny, and it is a book about turnabouts.
So like sick funny or really funny?
Both.
Both. Oh, gosh.
It's, so it says things like, the king had a party for all of his officers, both big and small.
Oh, God. Okay.
And you can figure out what's big and small for a 6-month drinking party with whatever.
Feet.
Yeah. Some of whom were happy.
Oh, gosh.
And yeah, that's just a little bit of it. And the number of people who miss the details in the book. For example, the bad guy Haman builds a gallows on which to hang Mordecai, and it's 75 feet high.
What?
75 feet high.
That's 7 stories.
Yeah. Who's going to do that in their backyard? How are you going to get somebody up there to hang them?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's beyond excessive, right?
Yeah.
So everything in the book of Esther is that kind. The parties
Exaggeration.
beyond exaggeration.
Beyond,
Yeah.
okay.
Right. The drinking parties go on for months. The beauty contest from which the king is going to pick the new queen, right, goes on for, they have a year to get ready to spend a night with the king. They have 6 months of myrrh and perfume. Think about that a minute, folks. Who needs 6 months of smelling good? And then 6 months of learning how to please the king.
It could be Mar-a-Lago.
No comment.
So we're halfway through, more than halfway through the show.
Yeah.
We have to talk about our
We have to
change
talk.
of mind.
We do have to talk about change of mind. So let me just tell you a little bit of what change of mind. Change of mind is a set of 8 clinicians, of 8 people who can work with you to help make life better. This is an interesting point. I had a young lady, one of my clients. I'm doing some work with some young ones, and even young, she says to me, "Well, I don't want people to think that I'm crazy. Why should I go to a therapist?" And the answer is, you're not going to a therapist because you're crazy. You're going to a therapist because you want somebody who's going to teach you some skills to make your life better.
Mm-hmm.
And all of us can have a healthier, happier life I have benefited from the therapy. I had to take therapy in order to become a rabbi. I had to take therapy in order to be a chaplain. I've had to take therapy as part of this process, simply to understand it. And it has made my life better.
Yeah, and put it in an athletic term, we all kind of need a coach in our life.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure.
There's somebody who can show us some things that can make all the difference in the world. If you're trying to weight lift and you're not putting your feet in the right position, you're going to hurt yourself over the long run, or you're at least not going to perform as well as you could. Same is true with therapy. There are things that happen in our lives. I've gone to years. I've gone to school for years to learn how to help people. And that's true for every therapist. It's one of the hardest things to get certified for. Of all the things that I've done, therapy is one of the hardest. And, and Al says everyone deserves non-agendaed therapy. Therapy is supposed to be non-agendaed. If it's agendaed, it's not really therapy, it's brainwashing.
Oh, yeah, but you're right. Now,
So-
can a family come to you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Families, couples, parents with children, anybody over 18 who doesn't have a legal guardian determining their stuff can decide to do it. There's any number of ways. And, so for me, I can accept private pay, not United, I misspoke. I can accept private pay, Cigna or Aetna until my license is finished. But the other therapists are fully paneled and somebody there can help you. And there's other organizations inside.
So there is some insurance that can cover this.
Yeah, there's some insurances that'll cover some parts of it. The testing, not so much. And that's pricey. That I will tell you that is pricey, and the cost of the test will be passed on because it has to be. We can't afford to absorb that. It's like, I want to say, I'm trying to remember exactly. We calculated it out per because you have to buy a kit and then you have to figure out how many tests you can do for that until you. So we're going to pass on for that, and it's like $40 to $50 a test. So it's not cheap to do the testing, and some of the testing is fast, some of it's an hour, and some of it's longer. So we'll roll out more details on it as we start to figure out what it is, because some of the testing can take 4 hours. And some of it, like the PDD, PDD-BI, the behavioral inventory, has a piece that has to be filled out by the parents and a piece that's filled out by teachers if the child is in school.
We saw something, I can't remember what it may have been NBC Nightly News, that the COVID generation was really having problems, like major problems, in classroom settings.
Well, so let's look back at COVID. COVID's an interesting set of problems, because it's a set of problems. First off, it happened very quickly, so people couldn't prepare for it. The panic, I'm thinking, I knew about it in January because I was teaching the Chinese and I saw them deal with it. And
I know we got our vaccines and so did you.
Yeah.
You were just a couple days behind us.
but that was in summer. That wasn't until summer.
Yeah.
And so the shutdown happened very quickly in March, right? People kind of left on Friday expecting things to be quote unquote normal, but instead we had the shutdown by Monday. And so it happened on a weekend, so there wasn't any chance to take stuff home and prepare and do. And everybody thought it was going to be 2 weeks and then back to normal, quote unquote, which clearly that was, and you're right, Al's talking about some damage that some therapists have done by planting memories, by leading a client, and that is a very serious issue. But getting back to COVID, So it went down very quickly without preparation, and everybody thought it was going to be 2 weeks. Well, what do you do with 2 weeks that you're unexpectedly home? Most people party and buy toilet paper. Uh, the paper shortage. That was astounding.
Yeah,
The
still is to me.
yeah,
The baby formula, same thing.
well, this fear that the supply chain was going to somehow dry up and you know, that didn't happen, never did. It just took factories a while, and there are still people who've got years of paper goods stockpiled.
Oh, God. Oh, boy.
We never did. You know, it's my personal policy to always have one package in reserve, and when I open that package, we shop for the next one. So there's always one sitting, and that got us through. It didn't have to be more than that. Water, we have a thing in the summer that we do, when we're starting it now because it's the beginning of hurricane season. As we lead into hurricane season, when we need a case of water, we buy two, and we use one and put one in stockpile. The next time when we run through that case and we need another one, we buy two, put one in stockpile, use the other one, and do that until we build up to 6 or 7 packs of water. And then come November, we stop buying water and we just dwindle down the,
Makes perfect sense. And
Yeah.
Publix has got so many BOGOs on water anyway.
yeah. Well, and that's what we do. We tend to buy either the BOGOs or the buy two, get one. And those are the ones that go into the stockpile. And that builds us up so we have enough water that we're not shopping right before a hurricane and emptying the shelves, so we don't have to put up with that stuff. And my usual habit of having one set of Kleenex boxes, one set of paper towels, and one set of toilet paper in the garage seems to work, and we've not had to do the panic shopping. It's at a time when it doesn't damage the supply chain, it doesn't unfairly burden the store, and that way those who do need the last minute stockpile can get it. So that's the thing that we do, and it's just a way of planning it. We've got an area where that water sits and then it gets used up so it doesn't stay old. What I don't want to be doing is 3 years from now drinking that water that was bottled 2 years before I got it.
So you're obviously teaching at both Kaiser and IRC. How much time are you spending at Change of Mind? I've
got quite a few hours mostly in the evening that are available at Change of Mind, also some weekend hours. And I'm trying to figure out how I can expand that. But there are different times that I can do. And yeah, I've got to sandwich it in between everything else.
Yeah, yes.
Thank God I've got a really tolerant husband, so he's been a gem through all this. Because I've actually got many hours that I've got to put in for, I'm in the last week of practicum, and then I actually start Liberty's internship
Oh, God.
in May 13th, I think it is, 13 or 15, something like that.
So what is that?
Well, that's just more hours. But what it is fewer classes. I drop down. I'm taking fewer side classes around it just because there's not enough hours in the day.
Yeah.
There's just not enough hours. And fortunately, I can do that because all my classwork is done. I think I have addiction, my specialized class in addiction. Not that we haven't talked about addiction. We certainly have and worked with it. And I work with clients with it. But, and then sexuality will be in fall. And that's the last of my classes outside of internship, which is just, I have my supervisors. So I've got Eric Lever at Change of Mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got up in Orlando, also supervisors, Debbie Lopez Ramos and Ronit Navon are my supervisors up there. So I've got different supervisors that are required by the state of Florida and or by Liberty. And then you have your professors, and all of them watch what you do so that you not harm your clients.
Wow.
And as I said, it's harder certification than most any other thing that I've seen.
You're under a microscope.
You're definitely under a microscope. Not my clients, but me. I'm actually doing my last assignment for practicum this week, and that's called a verbatim, and that's where you take an excerpt out of a session, and you literally write down everything that either of you says, including the ums, uhs, all those little things that you shouldn't say in your speech. You write them out, and then I have to look at everything that I say, not the things that the client says, but the things that I say, and second guess myself. How could I improve that? What could I say better in the future? And then I have to come up with 5 goals for improvement at the end of this paper. So it's along with diagnosing what the condition is with this client, and my supervisors see the video and my professor sees the video. So, I've got to be right on. If I'm not, I'll hear about it.
From more than one person?
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that elaborate.
It's that elaborate. So there's a lot of checks and balances in this.
And rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Because it's people's lives you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Right? People are coming to you for help, and it better be help.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so, yeah, a therapist, and that's not to say that there aren't bad therapists who snuck through the system. I'm sure there are, because there's whatever anywhere.
Bad folks everywhere.
Yeah, there's bad surgeons. We try to weed them out, etc.
Yeah.
And so I take it very, very seriously. And my goal is to be the best therapist that I can for my clients, because I want them to get the best benefit out of it. Nothing makes me happier than a client who says, I feel better about this. I can now manage it. Because that's what I give, is I give something called psychoeducation, which is that I teach tools. So one of the tools that I teach, and we've done it here, is the box breathing, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That helps you calm down. Okay? In, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. And if you do that, it's going to calm you down. Do it more than once. Do it 2 or 3 or 4 times. But also pick your shoulders up and lift them and drop them down onto your rib cage. It's going to help your posture. It's going to help your back.
Carol does the breathing a couple times a day, and
Yeah.
She says it really works for her.
And any time that you feel yourself getting anxious or angry or any of those emotions, it's a good thing to do, to let yourself be ruled by logic rather than by emotion. Because we make better decisions when we're not being emotional. But we make a ton of decisions when we're emotional, most of them.
Oh, yeah.
If we didn't, cars would all be white or black.
Wait a minute. Henry Ford said something about that.
Any color you want as long as it's black. He actually
Yeah.
did some testing and determined that black paint dries the quickest. That's why it was black,
Naturally.
because he wanted to get things through the line as quickly as possible. If other colors had dried as quickly, there probably would have been more choices.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, and Al says, teach that to young children. And I do. Any youngster that comes to me for therapy learns box breathing and shoulder lifts, and they learn several other. They learn the clench and relax, all of the mindfulness. I believe in that, and I believe in hope, and I definitely believe in finding meaning in what we're going through and looking forward to, what would the solution be? Solution-based. So I'm eclectic. I use what I hope are the best tools for my clients. And that's all I can hope to do. So with that, Friday nights are what they are. And, Kaiser's got graduation coming up May 17th.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of exciting things coming in the future.
IRSC's continuing today,
Right.
as a matter of fact.
IRSC, the semester starts Wednesday. Kaiser starts Monday. My vacation is my vacation
You're toast.
is over. I'm toast. I'm going right back into the fire. And I've got 2 classes at Kaiser, 1 in person, 1 online at IRSC. Be a full week.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're at Change of Mind,
And the phone number there is
284-6030, 284-6030. Obviously, area 772.
Thank you so much for that. This is Rabbi Shafir Lobb for Congregation Eitz Chayim, your Jewish home on the Treasure Coast. And it has been a wonderful Friday to be with you folks. Stay well and find some joy in life.
Now, where do we find you on Fridays?
On Friday nights, you find me at 295 Prima Vista, Northwest Prima Vista Boulevard at the corner of Irving. And you turn north on Irving and the first left into that first building, the community center at St. Andrew's Lutheran Church. And we're there Friday nights at 7:30.
All right. Have a good week.
You as well. Take care, everyone.
This is WPSL, Port St. Lucie.